Hello and welcome to a special broadcast on challenges of groundwater management in India. Water is a source of life and groundwater is a major source of drinking water in rural and urban areas. It provides for most of the irrigation requirements in our country as well. However, overexploitation of groundwater resources in some states and cities has led to a decline in the water tables, creating water insecurity. Contamination of groundwater resources is another challenge that continues to pose health risks. Today, we will look at a 360-degree picture of the groundwater scenario and challenges of managing it and ask how can we move to a water-secure future. To discuss that, we are joined by an esteemed panel of guests. I'm pleased to introduce K.C. Nayak, Chairman, Central Groundwater Board, Akhil Kumar, Joint Secretary in charge of Groundwater, Ministry of Water Resources, and Aprajita Sarangi. She is a Joint Secretary, Manrega, with the Ministry of Rural Development. I welcome you all to this special broadcast. But before we begin the discussion, let's take a look at the problem at hand and the interventions being made to address it. Water is our lifeline. Yet, India is one of the most water-stressed countries in the world, with demand for water increasing due to rising population, urbanization and industrialization, and per capita availability of water decreasing over the years. Groundwater accounts for 60% of India's irrigation needs, 85% of rural drinking water needs, 50% of urban water needs, and over 40 years, it has contributed to over 80% increase in net irrigated area. Groundwater resources stand severely depleted because of excessive use, especially in agrarian states of Punjab and Haryana. Delhi and Rajasthan are among the other most water-stressed areas in India. Excessive extraction has increased the share of assessment units with overexploited groundwater reserves from 3% in 1995 to 16% in 2013. One of the key reasons for higher groundwater exploitation is promotion of water-intensive crop varieties in the past that has made Indian agriculture less water efficient than agriculture in the US or China. Not just water scarcity, water quality is also a source of concern in India. Around 60% districts face the problem of groundwater contamination or scarcity or both. 335 districts in 20 states have fluoride contamination in groundwater. 387 districts in 21 states have nitrate contamination, and 302 districts in 25 states have iron contamination. Consumption of contaminated groundwater leads to waterborne diseases like diarrhea, fluorosis, typhoid, cholera, and hepatitis. The challenge of water scarcity is affecting cities like Bengaluru, Pune, and Delhi as well. A recent report by Down to Earth magazine of the Centre for Science and Environment sent alarm bells ringing as it concluded that Bengaluru may soon run out of water like Cape Town in South Africa, which is facing a severe water crisis. It identified unplanned urbanization and encroachment of water bodies in Bengaluru as the reasons behind minimal groundwater recharge, taking its water table down from 12 meters to 91 meters in 20 years. For sustainable use and management of groundwater resources, the government has been making interventions. NAKIM, a national project on aquifer management, was started in 2012 by Central Groundwater Board to identify and map aquifers and quantify groundwater potential with a shift in approach from development to management of groundwater. Under the project, the board is undertaking a pilot study in 6 areas of 5 states. Groundwater Bill 2017 proposes to make water a public trust and fundamental right, decentralize control of groundwater, protect water at aquifer level through groundwater security plans, and local participation in protecting groundwater. The government has also proposed Atal Bhujal Yojana aimed at sustainable groundwater management with community participation, under which micro-level aquifer management plans would be formulated. The scheme would cost 6,000 crore rupees for a period of 5 years and would focus on select overexploited and groundwater-stressed areas in 7 states. More interventions at institutional, community and individual levels are required to conserve groundwater and make our present and future water secure. Bureau Report, DD News. So now let's begin our discussion on the degree of the problem at hand and also at the reasons that led to the situation to come to the extent that it has come to. Mr. Nayak, why is India one of the most water-stressed countries in the world?
The groundwater utilization in our country it is increasing day by day because of increase in population, increase in urbanization, increase in industrialization. The water has been increased tremendously. Further, in irrigation sector as well, because of its easy availability, there is a lot of dependence on groundwater, because farmers get it easily. That's why in a uncontrolled manner of groundwater exploitation is going on. So that is the main reason why the groundwater level in almost 2/3 area of our country is being declined. If we see the water level measurement, around 62% of the area, there is a decline in the groundwater level. So this is the reason, because it is being utilized in irrigation sector, agriculture sector, domestic sector, everywhere there is increase in water requirement. That's why the declining trend we are observing.
Okay, so that's the reason that you attribute to the situation. Mr. Kumar, there is empirical evidence in terms of government data that exists that when it comes to assessment units, and there are 16% assessment units where there is overexploitation of groundwater resources. So clearly there is a problem that we have on our hands. What reasons do you attribute to the situation and the problem that exists?
See, as Mr. Naik was telling, that there is a basically an increasing pressure on groundwater for various purposes, irrigation, drinking, industrial purposes. Problem with groundwater is that is a basically invisible resource. So you, me, none of us know how much groundwater I have or the country has. Second issue is that how do we extract those groundwater. So under the current law, the prevailing laws of the country, anyone can withdraw the groundwater beneath his or her land. So if I want to put a tube well, there is no regulation or provision of the government where I have to go and apply for a license. I can just put a tube well and start extracting groundwater. So as a result, since it is easily available, there is no provision of the legal binding to procure a license, etc. Everybody is withdrawing water, and over a period of time it has taken as a birthright. So if you ask someone, that we want to put some regulation, there will be strong resistance from the community, from the people. Also you see that there is a pricing issue. So you pay, when you have a finite resource, you have to pay for the services. So you get electricity, you get charged for the electricity. But in water, since over a period of time the traditions or methodologies, there is not pricing mechanism have not developed. So people are basically lax in the usage and in the basically management of groundwater. So as a result, over a period of time, this resource, which is a finite because it is dependent on the rainfall, it is being growingly extracted or misused.
So there's clearly a regulatory gap that exists that needs to be plugged. You've highlighted the problem that exists there. Ms. Sarangi, you are associated with Manrega in the Ministry of Rural Development. How is the Ministry of Rural Development ensuring that that overexploitation of groundwater resources does not take place, that a depletion does not come to alarming levels, because most of the use of groundwater is in rural areas for drinking purposes and irrigation purposes?
I would definitely say that the soil and water conservation works is the backbone of all kinds of works that we take up under Manrega. And if we implement this program very well, I think the job is done. So it's extremely important to have the planning done properly, the execution done properly, and the monitoring done properly. And that's what we are trying to ensure. Manrega is the largest public welfare program of the world, and you can think of the volume of the contribution, I would say, to the entire water management works. If I give you a particular set of statistics, in fact, every year we spend almost 55,000 crore. Last year we had spent almost 55,000. This year we had spent almost 55,000 crore, and next year also we would be spending 55,000 crore. Okay. Now, till now in 17-18, we have been able to spend 20,110 crore on water related works. So that can explain to you the magnitude of this entire initiative under Manrega. And this is almost 38% of my entire expenditure. Last year also, if you see the statistics, almost 42% of my entire expenditure went to water related works. Extremely important to have the right planning and community involvement, and we are trying to go for that. We do about 260 kinds of works under Manrega, of these 84 works are water related. And these 84 kinds of works, in fact, if you ask me to subcategorize them, I would be saying that there are 4 categories, 4 subcategories. One is groundwater related, the other is irrigation related, third is drainage related, and the fourth is soil and water conservation related. So, there are 4 subcategories of all our works that we do for water augmentation. So, it is irrigation, it is groundwater. We do with the watershed approach, the ridge to valley approach is adopted with the involvement of community.
So there is a lot of focus when it comes to water management in Manrega. We'll take a break at this point in time. You're watching a special broadcast on challenges of groundwater management. Stay tuned.
अब रोज दोपहर आपके लोकप्रिय कार्यक्रमों का नया गुलदस्ता। सिनेमा इस हफ्ते, रंग तरंग, तेजस्विनी, डीडी न्यूज, केवल खबर पूरी खबर।
Welcome back. You're watching a special broadcast on challenges of groundwater management in several areas across the country. The water table has depleted to dangerous levels, and which is why there is a need to better manage our groundwater resources. We continue to be joined in the studio by an esteemed panel of guests, K.C. Nayak, Akhil Kumar and Aprajita Sarangi. Mr. Nayak, several interventions are being made in order to save the situation, and NAKIM, of course, is one initiative that the board started in 2012, and a lot of work has already happened under it. Bring us up to speed with the kind of implementation that has taken place so far of NAKIM, and what is it that it seeks to achieve?
Central Groundwater Board has taken up this National Aquifer Mapping Program since 2012, and so far we have completed around 6.5 lakh square kilometer. And in another, by 2020, we are expecting we will be able to complete 13 lakh square kilometer. Under this scheme, the main purpose of this study is to find out the aquifer geometry of aquifer. Aquifer is a rock formation which bears the water from where we draw the water. So unless we understand the configuration of the aquifer and its properties, we cannot have an idea about how much water it can store and it can release. So that is the main purpose, to find out the groundwater resources in terms of quantity and as well as quality. So this study we are taking up since 2012, and by 20 we will be covering around 13 lakh square kilometers.
Do you face any technological constraints when you go about the exploration and mapping of aquifers?
We have got a fleet of 84 rigs. We are doing on our own also. We were earlier also we were doing that exploration work, but as the target has been increased and the government desired that it should be completed in a mission mode, some of the part was outsourced. So we are doing this, allowing some outsourcing work as well. And apart from that, we have taken up in 5 states 6 pilot projects to find out the feasibility of this, all the technological advances, starting from this heliborne survey, then detailed geophysical survey. All these things we have done in 6 pilot projects, and the report of the 6 pilot projects that shows that there is a possibility for better management if we have got a data on a complete sequence.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question. Do we have adequate reliable data in place for various interventions?
I think data is not an issue. How best we use those data, that remains an issue. So we are basically, through a national hydrology project, we are bringing, converging all surface and groundwater data in a single platform, and which will help in making right decisions through decision support systems. So I mean, data, as far as data is concerned, that's not a big issue.
Okay, Ms. Sarangi, I'll ask you 2 questions here. One on integration between Manrega and other schemes like Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. How are you ensuring that the focus remains by and large on water conservation and recharge? And also, how do you plan to make use of most of the allocation that has happened for this purpose in the budget?
I would definitely say with a lot of confidence that we are taking all steps to promote convergence of MG and REGS with other schemes. In fact, many of the schemes of different departments are the same goal, water conservation and water management, and gainful utilization of funds, whatever, wherever available should be gainfully utilized in the best interests of the people. So, in this connection, in fact, we have gone a step further, and we have tied up with a couple of departments. Water resources ministry is of course one, agriculture ministry is another, Department of Land Resources is the third one. We are all working together, and on November 1st, 2016, the Ministry of Rural Development under MGNREGS had brought out a mission or set of guidelines called Mission Water Conservation Guidelines. And in fact, 3 secretaries were signatory to that set of guidelines: the Secretary Water Resources, Secretary Rural Development, and Secretary Land Resources. So, this was basically an expression of the intent that all of us wanted to work together towards a common goal. And in fact, let me tell you honestly that we work together, and we have identified 2,264 water stressed blocks in the country.
Okay.
And together we are kind of focusing on them, we are monitoring them almost on weekly basis, and we are trying to ensure that community actually gets involved in the whole process and they get the benefit that they deserve.
How are you reaching out to community and building capacity at the local level, let's say the panchayat level? Because the Groundwater Bill 2017 that has been
That's
drafted
right.
also focuses on local governance and community participation
right.
a lot.
In fact, you know, the beauty of Manrega is that all our plans are prepared at the Gram Panchayat level. So, in the villages, in the Gram Sabha, the Gram Panchayat level, people meet and they design their plan. They actually tell us as to what kind of works they want to take up in their villages. And let me tell you, they know their area better than we do. But as far as our technical personnel, in fact, we have about 55,000 technical personnel all across the country under Manrega. It's extremely important to capacitate them so that they are able to target the right point when a particular water harvesting structure is taken up. They should very clearly know where to actually have that water conservation structure or water harvesting structure and in what manner. So, it's basically the point and the methodology.
So
These
are you
two are very
satisfied with the
important.
progress being made on that count?
No, I am just coming to that. In fact, with the help of the Ministry of Water Resources, we have designed our training module, and we are capacitating all these 55,000 people. And I am very glad to inform you that till today almost 30,000 people have been trained. So, the modules have been done together, and this is as per the Mission Water Conservation Guidelines that I talked of now, and we are all moving together. So, it is basically planning by the people and monitoring by the people. They do it, they do everything, planning, execution and the monitoring. Our people facilitate, our technical people facilitate, they do the plan, they do the estimates, etc., and they supervise the work.
Okay, so there's clearly a coordinated effort
Certainly.
that we are seeing between various central government ministries and also state governments in order to ensure water conservation and protection and recharge of groundwater structures. We'll take a break at this point in time. You're watching a special broadcast on groundwater challenges in terms of management. Stay tuned.
अब रोज दोपहर आपके लोकप्रिय कार्यक्रमों का नया गुलदस्ता। सिनेमा इस हफ्ते रंग तरंग, तेजस्विनी, डीडी न्यूज, केवल खबर पूरी खबर।
Welcome back. You're watching a special broadcast on challenges of groundwater management, and today we are discussing the interventions that need to be made in order to make India water secure for our present and our future generations as well. Mr. Kumar, earlier in the discussion you had pointed to a regulatory gap that exists, but correct me if I'm wrong, are regulations being tightened now? For instance, I understand that as per the guidelines, an NOC or a no objection certificate cannot be granted to drinking water packaging industries in overexploited zones. Besides that, you know, in terms of the regulatory gap that you pointed out, do you think the Groundwater Bill 2017 will partly address that?
So, I mean, for the sustainable groundwater management, the strategy should be multi-pronged. So, one option is to go for a bill or an act. That could be one option. The other option is a community-led groundwater resource management that we are trying to address through Atal Bhujal Yojana. And third is through some regulation through under Environmental Protection Act that we do and through CGWA. So, if you see the various components, under the latest bill, we are again promoting a community led groundwater management, because we find that the existing act of easement act, which allows everybody to extract water, is not working. The best way forward is to promote community to manage their own resources. So, this is what we are trying to encourage through groundwater bill, but that might not suit some states, because it depends on the local situation, local cultures, values. So, the best way forward is to develop a self regulation, self behavior model, where everybody understand how much water they have. That is what we are trying to address through Atal Bhujal Yojana, which is we are trying to bring this Yojana into 7 water stress, most water stress states
To begin with.
In the country, where we will encourage, we will empower, which Aparajita was telling us how Manrega was implemented, is currently being implemented through community participation. We are basically looking at the same model almost, where the community will be trained to measure how much water they have, and on the basis of that they will develop a water security plan for that village. So, you will get to know on the basis of rainfall how much water is available for that particular village in that particular year, and what is the demand for example, demand for personal consumption, demand for your animals, and then how much water is required for agriculture crops. On the basis of that, they will develop a water security plan, which will basically be used for diverting or converging the public schemes which is already existing. So, this is the whole concept and idea of Atal Bhujal Yojana, which is one of its own kind innovative approach for groundwater management, and this will be first of its own kind, which will be taken on such a large scale by government.
Are you also emulating best practices?
Yes. So, what we are trying to do here, we are basically we engage with all the major stakeholders across the countries. We have engaged with all those NGOs, think tanks or practitioners who have practiced, actually brought those best practices into function, and we learned from them, and we have dovetailed those practices into this program.
Okay.
And the third component that you talked about, the regulation. So, we have come up with the regulation. The regulation as on date is done through Environmental Protection Act by CGWA, but that mostly deals with industries. We are not touching agriculture, which we believe that should be self regulated. In that also we are trying to bring a new guidelines, where we are encouraging, we are not encouraging, we are making a provision that whosoever is using, depending upon the quantum of use and the area of use, there will be a corresponding water conservation fees, which states will use for undertaking water conservation structures or measures that is desired in that particular.
One problem is of water scarcity, the other problem is of water quality. What are the interventions that are being made in order to address the problem of water quality?
In our country, the main water quality problems are arsenic, fluoride, nitrate and iron. And mostly all these are geogenic. Geogenic means it is in the aquifer itself, the problem is in the aquifer itself. So, to tackle the arsenic minerals, we have state of art technology. We are constructing the tube wells which are free from arsenic, means the aquifer which are tapping, there is no arsenic content in that. If you see the Indo-Gangetic plain, the arsenic content that is found is within depth range of 40 to 60 meter. In some cases it goes up to 80 meter in West Bengal. So, if we are drilling a well and sealing those 80 meter top, we are not pumping the water from that arsenic bearing aquifer, we are getting safe arsenic free water. And for drinking water purposes, it is sufficiently we can get those waters, but we should have to see that it should not be over pumped. Once we over pump, the aquifer, the contaminated aquifer water may percolate down to the below aquifer. So, we are protecting those through cement sealing, and we have constructed a number of wells and which are being utilized by the state as safe arsenic free water. Regarding fluoride, it's a there is no control over space and time getting a fluoride affected, because in a particular village we may have a fluoride affected wells, and whereas in the adjoining area we don't have fluoride. So, we are constructing wells, and in that case we are diluting the water. We are recommending for dilution of water before it is being supplied to the for drinking purposes. Regarding iron removal plants are being set up,
Okay.
and these are being utilized.
Okay, so interventions are being made to improve water quality
different
also
type
when
of
it comes to
interventions are
groundwater
being
resources.
made.
That's all the time that we have for this. Thank you so much, Mr. Naik, Mr. Kumar, and Ms. Sarangi for having joined us on this special
Thank you.
broadcast. So, to achieve water security, a coordinated effort is what is needed between the central government, local bodies, state governments, and communities, so that the locals, you and me, take charge of conserving and recharging groundwater using cost-effective, traditional, and innovative techniques, and by using water in a responsible manner so that it is sustainable, because the nature has enough to fulfill our needs but not enough to fulfill our greed. With that, we conclude this special broadcast. Thanks for watching.